Yeah, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this BE-terna webinar. This time we will focus at the food and beverage industry, and we in BE-terna are super excited to announce cooperation with AppTen. They are generating ERPs features for the food and beverage industry. And first, we will do a brief introduction to the two companies, and then we will go a bit in details with what the AppTen software can offer. BE-terna, we are a European company, one of the leading in Europe, Microsoft Inner Circle, and we are providers of cloud-based industry-specific business software solutions. We are a full service provider, and we are specializing in driving digital transformation to a lot of companies around in both the Nordic and rest of Europe. We offer best-in-class ERP, CRM, and analytics, and our customers, they are both European, Nordic, and even global companies. In BE-terna, we are 1,200 employees and have a lot of customers and projects over the last many years. We are represented in 10 countries and with well over 120 million euro turnover. In the Nordics, we also are represented with more than 100 consultants and developers. We have 6 offices across Nordic and Netherlands and have been present since 1991. BE-terna, we are also behind a global network called People, so we can deliver projects across the world, more than 4,500 experts, and represented in more than 85 countries. So with that, I would like to give the word over to AppTen.
Thank you, Arne. So my name is Joris Kolf. I'm representing AppTen today. I have around 13 years experience in food and beverage, all in the Microsoft space. So let's start with saying something about AppTen. So AppTen is a global provider. We deliver industry-specific software solutions, which means that we are always delivering software solutions that are very industry-specific or specifically created for a niche. We have a very huge focus on food and beverage, and we deliver purpose-built food and beverage ERP solutions, but also solutions around the ERP. We are doing that with around 3,000 employees, and nowadays it's very important when you look at a software solution. It's not only the ERP technique anymore, but we're seeing all kind of other techniques that we will also touch later on in the webinar that are relevant and important to food and beverage businesses. And also, as an IT partner, you have to make sure that you have that knowledge in-house and that you can deliver and build that long-lasting relationship with the customer, also from a technical aspect. So let's look at the footprint of AppTen Food and Beverage, where we are covering the globe, basically. Let's look at the next slide. So when we look at our global footprint, AppTen originates from the US, but if you look to our current footprint, around 53% of our customers and employees are in North America. The other 46% is in EMEA, and we're also starting up in APAC, which gives a strong coverage around the globe. It's interesting from a skill point of view, as I just mentioned, that the skill is very important to overcome all the challenges with new techniques and technical innovation. But we're also seeing the same globalization in the food industry. And if you look to rules from the FDA in North America or rules from the EU in EMEA, all food safety rules that apply, we're seeing it from a food safety culture, but also from customers going more worldwide. And we are trying to help customers around the globe, of course, by these challenges, but also by their growth across several countries. So let's move into the vendor landscape for food and beverage. We did some research a few years ago. What we're seeing in the market is that basically a food and beverage company has 2 options when they go to market for an ERP solution or for a software solution. At the right side, we're seeing the large ERP providers. I think everybody knows the big names. They have a very strong tech focus, strong resources, both in capital, but also in employees. They have leading innovation, so technically state-of-the-art, future-proof, and also Microsoft is one of these large ERP providers, of course. But what we're often seeing in the market is that these large providers, they lack a bit of industry focus, and with that, the support can be a bit impersonal. From the other hand, we're seeing local heroes, which have a really strong, we're having a really strong industry-specific focus, very personalized. But as I mentioned earlier, the technical innovation is going so quickly, and also other techniques like AI and BI and other techniques that are available are coming to the market. And with local heroes, we're seeing often that there's inability to invest. It's difficult to get to that innovation level you want, and therefore the stability can be a bit uncertain. What we're trying to do from an Aptian point of view is to combine these two elements, the plus sides of these two elements. So the strong tech focus, leading innovation, industry-specific focus, and the personalized support. And that's also why we are working with partners like BE-terna. So let's move into the joint success that we achieve with BE-terna. So what Aptian does is that we deliver the global scale in the product development, but also in the vertical knowledge of the food and beverage industry and all the niches in the food and beverage industry. We are really happy to work with BE-terna, as BE-terna adds that local presence that I just talked about in the previous slide, the local culture, the language, the market knowledge, and a really strong customer focus. Also a service-oriented drive. I think Aptian is also focused a lot on the software development. And with BE-terna, we have a partner who really focuses on delivering that service, project success, customer success, and making sure that the customer experience is there. And it's great. Also, BE-terna gives Aptian and also our customers extra scale, especially into the Nordics, but also scale in Europe. And I will come back to that later. Also, BE-terna can help us, as we are completely focused from Aptian point of view on the food and beverage industry. We are taking care of that market knowledge and of that functionality, basically on top of your ERP. But where BE-terna can also help is in the other techniques that Microsoft offers, also in maybe horizontal solutions like invoice scanning and that kind of solution. So BE-terna is also making the scope a bit wider, also on the horizontal solutions. And also Anna will come back onto that later. So yeah, that should really be driving our joint success. We as Aptian delivering the scale and the product development, and BE-terna adding the customer service basically on the implementation of the projects in the specific regions where BE-terna is already very experienced. So and we're already looking to some food and fresh customers. So of course, Aptian has more than 400 food and beverage customers. Also, BE-terna is having food and beverage customers. We just took some names out of our customer base. What we're seeing here is that we can handle several types of food and beverage customers. So we're seeing more fresh like companies, like importers, traders, wholesalers in fruit and vegetables. We're seeing processors of fresh products, but we're also seeing long shelf life in the like of Yakult and Merba, bakery, more in the dairy Yakult, etc., etc. So we can see over here that we can handle multiple types of shelf life, basically ultra fresh, short shelf life, long shelf life. But what you also can see is that we have a few local companies who are acting only in one country. But we're also seeing a lot of groups like Dole, but also Yakult, who are active in more than 9 countries in Europe. So also the solution is made to have a implementation over several countries. But if you want to have the solution in one country only, of course, that also works perfect. So that gives you an idea. We also work together on a project, on a customer. Anna is going to tell you more about that collaboration. You're muted, Anna.
Yeah, thank you, Joris. Yeah, so our first project together is this Merba, and that has already been kicked off. We are in the first phase at the moment. and it's a really interesting company that has great success in the Netherlands and other countries as well with export. They produce high volume of different cookies of high quality, and they sell them all around the globe. So there we work together and to deliver a super nice solution based on the Microsoft D365 Finance and Supply Chain Management, and with the ERP Food and Beverage vertical. So we are looking forward to continue that cooperation with our experts and your experts together. As you said, we have the local knowledge and you have the vertical knowledge of the features and the details that are needed in this industry. So for this project, it's going for full now, and we estimate to go live in beginning of 2025.
Thank you, Arne. Well, what we are seeing here is that there are a lot of customers and also food companies out there who are using on-premise solutions, often with customizations. And what we are trying to do is to migrate them over to a cloud-first solution, and also using the best practices and the product capabilities that are there to of course make sure that the number of customizations will be limited. So we're really excited about that, and let's move into ERP and what the ERP Food and Beverage solution can offer in combination with BE-terna. So enterprise resource planning, ERP. Let's go to the next slide to see what ERP scenarios we see in the market. So basically, when you look at ERP, we are always looking at software solutions. We could judge them on two angles. Let's start with the one below, the technology efficiency. So if you look to the solution, you want to have, of course, one solution, one single source of the truth, cloud first solution, and really technology efficiency. When you look at a single ERP package, a standard out-of-the-box ERP package, that's very streamlined from a technology point of view. But from a business alignment point of view, at the left side, you can see that a horizontal standard ERP solution is very streamlined, but not that strong aligned to the business alignment, to the business processes. The alternative is, of course, to have a homegrown system, which is complex and also not very business aligned, or a best-of-breed solution, which is very vertical and business aligned, but from a technical point of view, from a platform, a technical and future-proof point of view, it's not that streamlined. So what we are trying to do is that we take that single ERP package and that we add the functionality to it that makes the solution vertical and therefore business alignment. And then we are combining best of both worlds, having a streamlined, future-proof ERP solution and having the capabilities to align to the business needs and the business processes. The Microsoft platform helps with that. So it's not only about ERP. And when we move into the next slide, we will see that the Microsoft platform is basically future-proofing your business and making it ready for the future. So let's go to the next slide and discuss that further.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the Microsoft platform, Microsoft as a company is investing a vast amount of money in further development and to make not only a product, not only an ERP product, but a whole platform. Especially they are investing into the AI platform at the moment, billions of dollars, and that gives a lot of interesting possibilities for companies that are moving into or that are considering what's next for them. Where should they go if they have old on-prem software now and they want to look at the options out there? Microsoft is a guarantor for future-proofness, that it works not only today but also in many, many years to come. And they have the whole Azure cloud platform in the bottom. Then they have, you can say, the next layer with the common data services, all the integrations, the AI platform, with that whole software package. And on top again, they have the Power Automate, the BI, Power Apps, which also gives users a great opportunity to do some customizations themselves. They don't need to always rely on consultants and developers, but it's the power in the hands of the users. The finance and supply chain ERP, it's an extremely strong product from Microsoft. They have invested into that through many, many years, and also in combination with the Microsoft Office 365, there you see productivity and how to optimize the processes. There are so many options and so many possibilities for companies. It feels very comfortable and easy to work with when you are used to work with the Office systems. So again, then we have the ISV on top of that, and then the word back to you, Joris.
Yes, thank you, Arne. So you can already see that there are a lot of technologies out there, and BE-terna has experience with all these technologies, and especially on AI, we expect a lot from that. When you follow the news, you can see a lot of initiatives, and also Microsoft. I think the traditional standpoint or automation strategy was always just put everything in ERP, at least then it is in one system. And that's a bit changing. So Microsoft offers a whole platform around the ERP so that you can always decide, okay, I have a business challenge or a business issue. Where am I going to solve that? Is that in the ERP or is that around the ERP using the techniques that Microsoft delivers? If you look to this platform, it's a really open platform, which means that Microsoft has a app source available. So when you're buying the standard finance and supply chain ERP, let's say off the shelf, Microsoft enables the ecosystem to develop functionalities on top of that. And partners or vendors who are doing that are called ISV, independent software vendors. Aption is one of these ISVs, which means that we are specialized in the food and beverage, that we are adding functionalities and IP for that food and beverage industry, specifically for that niche. And I will dive into that later. But also, when you look to Microsoft App Source, it also provides you possibilities to add other apps. So maybe not Aption apps, maybe even BE-terna apps, or even third-party vendor apps, like invoice processing, like connection with web shops, and all that kind of initiatives. So this is also a part of the future-proofing your business. So Aption will take care of that food-specific IP in App Source, but also if there are needs in the future which are maybe not covered by Aption, maybe they are covered by BE-terna, maybe they are covered by other suppliers. It's an open platform which makes your environment really future-proof and also doesn't basically hijack you into a customization or a best-of-breed strategy. So let's zoom into that IP that we have available on Microsoft App Source for the finance and supply chain management stack. So Microsoft Dynamics 365 for finance and supply chain management is a very powerful ERP solution. Like any ERP solution, it has a finance granule in it. It has capabilities on supply chain management, CRM, HRM, manufacturing. So the key general functionalities that a ERP system provides. Where Microsoft is, of course, very strong as it is a mid-market enterprise solution. And it has all the generic functionalities you would expect. Even Microsoft already goes one step further by having functionality that is maybe not always specifically for the food and beverage, but at least is very usable for the food and beverage. Of course, everybody will understand WMS, but if you, for example, look to SCC labeling, that's very food and beverage specific. If you look to catch rate, handling dual unit of measures, it's very food specific. So there are already some functionalities out there that are usable in finance and supply chain management for the food and beverage industry. What Aption is doing is often tuning, extending that functionalities and also creating completely new functionalities. But we also have a lot of additions to the functionalities that Microsoft is providing out of the box, and we're just making a bit more specific for the food and beverage industry. So the foundation is there. The foundation is very strong. We are extending it, and on some elements we're creating new functionalities. So let's zoom into the IP that Aption delivers for finance and supply chain management on the next slide. That slide can be a bit overwhelming, so I will try to walk through it step by step. So if you can move to the next slide, please. Then we will dive into the Etienne Food and Beverage IP for financial supply chain management. You can just click through. Yes, so here you can see that there are a lot of elements on the Etienne Food and Beverage IP. And with IP, I mean functionalities. You can see that we group them in several groups. We are seeing foundation and supply chain. We're seeing commercial, operations, manufacturing, consignments, and I will come back to that later. Third-party services, advanced transportation, farming, and advanced quality control. And we're also seeing specific functionality for growers. When you look to our IP, you can see in the foundation and supply chain that are functionalities that we see basically in most of the food and beverage businesses. So we work with something which is called food dimensions. One of the big differences between a non-food and beverage product and a food and beverage product is that a food and beverage product, for example, when you are in the fish industry, you can have a specific type of fish, but it can be sourced from several locations or several areas in the sea, or it has specific certificates. If you look to fruit, you can have a red tomato, but it can also be let's say a light red tomato. It's still a tomato, but you want to have that visibility into your stock, and maybe you also have other pricing or other elements that you want to take into account when you're using these goods. So we did a lot around the items. We want to prevent that you have to create another item number for every variance of a specific item. And with these dimensions, we can give a lot number or a batch extra elements with it, which will be visible into production and manufacturing, basically sales, to make sure you are selecting and producing the right product. We're also seeing returnable packaging management. Returnable packaging is getting more and more important. We're also seeing that the value of returnable packaging goes up. So keeping track of the returnable packaging in your business, but also from your vendors to your customers, to the whole supply chain, you want to keep track of returnable packaging. And the system helps and calculates automatically. And also on the handhelds, you can correct the returnable packaging when you are receiving or shipping, for example. Of course, EDI, which is nowadays it's a standard thing in the food and beverage. Also product specifications. So when you look at food and beverage businesses, it's all around nutritional values, allergens, and all these elements. And you want to make sure that they are captured into your ERP system and also can be used for labeling, for example. We're also seeing a lot of, and I'm just taking some examples out of it, I'm not going one by one. We're also seeing turbo crossdock, and that's something that is really food and beverage specific. Sometimes you see goods, food and beverage goods that are picked up, for example, at the grower or at a vendor, and they directly go to the customer, and you're not seeing them in your own facility, or they're just crossdocked directly. We build functionality to support companies with that and making sure that it is possible from a solution point of view, but it is also easy and quick, because most of the requirements for food and beverage, they are left or right somewhere in the ERP solution. It's only not really usable because it's so many administrative tasks that you have to work with. For fresh companies, we're also having time conflict management. And that means if you are a daily fresh business and you're receiving goods in the morning, you're shipping them in the afternoon, and maybe you're even selling based on your rolling incoming stock, then we have time conflict management to make sure that we are helping the purchase and sales department to handle conflicts on quality, on deliveries that are maybe just not in time, and to make sure that the inventory is managed in that way. So we're not managing the inventory. We can manage the inventory on a day-by-day level, but with time conflict management, we can also manage it during the day. So that's all about foundation and supply chain, everything related to supply chain and functionalities that we're seeing in most of the food and beverage companies. Then we also have the commercial granule, where we have commodity trade possibilities, and that all has to do with basically purchase cost and sales costs, and also linking sales contracts to purchase contracts. So there's a whole commodity trade granule in there, and that's really for commodity traders. But sometimes when you look to food and beverage businesses, we are seeing more and more groups, more and more entities, and sometimes a part of the business is commodity trade, a part of the business is manufacturing, and basically we can use this functionality for the part which is commodity trading. Also advanced pricing. So we're seeing a lot of pricing structures with retailers and the most creative price agreements on volume, combinations of our items, etc., etc. So we heavily extended the standard functionality on pricing. Let's also go to operation manufacturing. We're seeing customers who are food and beverage companies who are sometimes just manufacturing during the day, for example. During the day without that they've got the real demand and sales orders in. You could imagine if you are in the fish industry, for example, and you're getting the fish in the morning, sometimes you really have to start producing or packing these products before you get the real sales orders in from the retailers. And then you can basically pack ahead. You can schedule the manufacturing ahead, and you can continuously monitor which sales orders are coming in and tuning your production execution basically during the day. Also live production performance, especially for manufacturing companies, that you have the live performance, shop floor control. We extended that heavily into the shop floor so that you can do quality checks, that you can do all kind of registrations which are food and beverage specific, and that you have live production performance visibility. Also, labeling is of course key in the food and beverage. So we also have something called label room functionality where you can take care of all the labeling. We also have something, and that's pretty unique, that's called product transformation. We are seeing a lot of food and beverage companies who have, for example, have to frost or have to defrost products, or have to put product basically 8 hours in a storage to rest, or maybe a cheese that you have to put on inventory and you have to ripen it, basically the cheese. That's something we call product transformation. And this is linked to also the food dimensions, because when I have, for example, have a product which I can sell frozen, but I can also sell it, let's say, defrosted or fresh, it can be the same article, it can be the same item from a visibility internally, but I can have 10 lots on inventory which are frozen and 10 lots on inventory which are not frozen. Still the same product, but with the food dimensions, I can see which part of my inventory is frozen and which is not frozen. The whole freezing process, which could take, for example, 6 hours, that's something we call a product transformation. So you're putting your products into the freezer. It's basically a production order. And after the 6 hours, the system automatically transforms the product from a non-frozen to a frozen product, and it books the production orders in the background basically for you, so that you don't have a big administrative task there. And that's called product transformation. That is used in a lot of food and beverage industry parts. Then we have the consignment and grower accounting. That's something that's very specific for fruit and vegetables, but we're seeing it more and more used also for meat and fish companies. So when you look at consignment and grower accounting, it's basically, it has two elements. One, the lot profitability. That's basically actual costing. So we extend actual costing a lot. And we're seeing more and more food and beverage customers using that actual costing because purchase costs, transport costs, and all these kind of costs are more, let's say, unpredictable. And especially at high value items, this is often used. So that's for food and beverage in general. When you look to fruit and vegetables, there we see a lot of consignment management. And you can have, of course, grower corporations where you have to calculate one average price back to your growers based on all the costs that you made and the sales revenue that you got. You calculate a price back to the grower, which is called grower returns. You can also call it self-billing. But when you're importing fruit and vegetables, you can also sell on commission basis. So basically you're tracking all the costs and then you keep the commission and the rest of the value goes back to the vendor. So that are two methods which are often used in fruit and vegetables, but we're seeing it more and more also in other parts of the food and beverage industry. And this is very impactful, because if you go to actual costing and lot profitability, you cannot say, oh, we're doing that in that part of the process. No, if you do it, you have to do it in your whole internal supply chain to make sure you track the costs on a detailed level without having a massive administrational task to do. Another trend that we are seeing in the food and beverage is the third-party services. So we're seeing companies who are basically outsourcing their packaging or manufacturing. We are seeing partners who are taking their inventory, putting their inventory at the third party. We're seeing companies who are doing that third-party inventory for others. So we're seeing a lot of movement of responsibilities within the supply chain and within businesses. So we added a lot of functionality to handle third-party services. So if you are handling third-party inventory for others, and you are charging others for that, we can handle that. If you're putting your inventory at other third-party logistics, we can also handle that. So this whole third-party trend, basically we are covering that from multiple angles, doing it yourself or just extending it or outsourcing it to other parties. And also the whole invoice mapping is integrated in that. Transportation. We're not delivering a TMS solution, a full transport management solution, but we are helping basically the transportation department with loading plan, loading slots, and also taking into account all the transportation costs and charges, and also having some touch screens at, for example, receipt that you can see, okay, this is what's expected today, at which times, etc., to give that warehouse department more visibility. We also have the farming granule, which is really meant for farms. We are seeing that basically in food and vegetables, but also a bit more and more in other elements of the food and beverage industry, and that can go from simple land parcel management. So what did the parcel, where did my inventory come from? But it can also go into crop forecasting to see, okay, what do I expect? You can enable your grower or your vendor also to let the grower or vendor forecast when he's going to deliver what, and that will automatically create basically purchase orders into your ERP solution to make sure the whole purchase process is covered and you know what to expect and when. But we can go with our functionality completely up to the farm level, and of course quality control, which is key for food and beverage companies across all the processes, expiration date management, and also mobile QC solution. So I think that's a good summary of our solution on a high level, and we can share any information, of course, that's necessary to help you guiding around our functionalities.
Yeah, that was excellent, Joris. Thanks a lot for this in-depth. One thing I also like about your solution is you have it on the very top bar there, business intelligence. So from many perspectives, you have good data insight into the different aspects from production to all the way through to transport and logistics and so on. And I think that's super important nowadays that you give the department managers and the different team leaders this opportunity this insight into what is happening.
That's always the end goal, huh? To get to that. That's the reason why all this IP is there. Huh? At the end of the day, you want to have the visibility of your operations, and so that's the result. Yeah.
It's important that we are data driven and then they can take good decisions based on what is happening.
Yep. So I think we can move to the next slide. This is basically a summary of the key F&B topics. So I think I handled most of them already. But these are the key elements of our solution: planning and forecasting, product specifications, handle timing in the supply chain, which is a big trend, to make sure you handle timing in your supply chain, but also internally into your own business and during the day, handling of the costs, more cost insight, production handling, quality control, and for the food and vegetable industry or fresh produce, we have extensive consignment management granules. So I think this is a good summary of what I just mentioned. I think it's good to share the contact details from BE-terna on the next slide, Anne.
Yeah, thank you. And this insight that you have given now, that is a good summary of what ERP module can do for these food and beverage companies. And I think also we will later come back with more webinars where we go in depth with some of these features. For example, the whole production handling and how that works with a demo, etc., etc. So that is something to look forward to. And if I look at the next slide here, then we have the different contact people. I am Arne Christensen, Managing Director of BE-terna in Norway. And then we have Ronald Evers, who is Regional Head of Sales in the Netherlands. And Fredrik Stenlund, who is Head of Customer Success in Sweden. And Jesper Højlund, who is the Regional Head of Sales in Denmark. So all of you who are listening or seeing this later, feel free to reach out to any of us and we will guide you forward. And also if you need more material or more in-depth information about either BE-terna or Upturn solution, then feel free to reach out to us at any time. There is a QR barcode also to our LinkedIn profile, email, and so on. So we are very, very excited about this partnership that has now started, and we think it will be a great opportunities for many companies in the Nordic and Netherlands who are looking for a vertical, a good solution for their company to not only take advantage of the Microsoft platform with all that innovation that is there, but also with detailed features that are spot on, and I would say market leader in this food and beverage industry. So that is something that I would recommend all companies in this industry to at least take a deeper look into that and see if this is something that can solve your specific needs. So with that, we will say thank you very much for listening in, and we will be back again later with more details and new webinars. And especially thank you to Joris from ERP for giving us insight to this solution.
Thank you very much, Anne, for hosting us today. And, hope everybody has a good day. If there are any questions, please reach out to the BE-terna team or to myself, and we'll try to help you further.
Thank you. And bye.